Good evening out there. How you guys doing? This Mike Melton back with From Pain to Purpose podcast, episode 22. And I reached into the crates this evening and I had to bring out one of my brothers from years and years ago, the legendary Mr. Eric Short from Brooklyn, New York, man. What's up, E? How you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good, my brother. It's been a long time since we talked, man. You
I know,
know,
man. I saw some stuff on your journey. I've been seeing you posting, and once I came over to start this platform from Pain to Purpose, I knew your story, and I seen some clips on it, and I was like, wow. When I was back coaching with him with the Wildcats and stuff, I had no idea that he was going through all of this at that time, man. And once I saw the 8-minute joint with your story on it, I said, yeah, he's a perfect candidate for coming on to share his from pain to purpose journey, man, because you really go through some pain, but you still living in your purpose, man. So thanks for coming on, bro.
yeah, no, it's my pleasure, man. Anytime I get a chance to kind of like share my story for a couple of different reasons, I'm always
Mm-hmm.
willing to do so.
Okay, okay.
And especially for young athletes or people who aren't aware of their health situations, you know.
So
And
take us back. Okay, go ahead, brother.
no, go ahead. No. I was
No,
just about done with that.
yeah, so take us back to growing up in Brooklyn, New York, man, and what was it like? What was your life like? What was going on there?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Brooklyn in the Flatbush Crown Heights area of Brooklyn, and being around a lot of guys that played ball, and all sports for all that matters, but mostly basketball was like a big thing in that area and across the city of New York. And as I was growing up, I'm seeing like the older guys playing, my brother and guys who are older like Ed Searcy and World Be Free and guys of that
Mm,
age. But while that transition of getting older became more prominent, me getting involved with sports, I also found out that I had a disease, and I found out like
mm,
I was like 8 years old. Oddly enough, I remember exactly where I was sitting in the house I was living in Rutland Road, where my
mhm,
mother, my grandmother, and the doctor, Dr. Payne, told me that I had a condition called Marfan syndrome, and they didn't call it that
mm,
at the time. But that right away put my parents, at least my mom, in protective mode. No
mhm,
sports, no nothing. But meanwhile, I'm getting good. I'm growing, and it was like a big, tuffle between the family of me wanting to play sports and my mother wanting to protect me, so that nothing would happen.
Can
Real
you
quick,
can you break down what Marfan syndrome is for those
yeah,
out there don't know? Because I didn't know about it until I saw your story.
yeah. Well, Marfan syndrome is a condition that impacts your connective tissue, mostly like your arteries, and in this case, in my case, your main artery, which is your aorta. It also can impact your vision, your eyes, and the other names for it would be a tall man's disease. And I
Mm,
know maybe your viewers are very familiar with Isaiah Austin that played for Baylor
mhm, mhm,
about 7 years ago. The NBA wouldn't draft him because they found out he had Marfan syndrome.
mm,
And so I knew that at some point in time, just going pushing a little forward, I knew I wasn't going to go any further because once they found out that I had this, it was going to be shut down. And so I kind of like felt that that was the case. If they found out I had a heart problem, that would
mhm,
automatically shut you down. But when you're in high school, if nothing ever happens, you cough for the doctor, and then you take your blood pressure and then go out and kill yourself, right?
uh-huh. Facts,
Yeah,
facts, facts.
basically, that's the
Yeah.
extent of the physicals you do. But when the NBA is, EKGs, and they're doing a little bit more testing to check to make sure you're insurable.
Mhm, mhm,
But going back to the youth days, there was like a big internal family dynamic that my mother didn't want me to play. My dad was okay with it. So there was like this big argument. Every time I would go out and play, I would get punished. My mother was like, sit down and read a book, do these math problems, like
mhm,
that kind of
mhm,
stuff. And I'm like, well, I want to go outside and ball. Like my buddies are playing on a team. And, but I kept getting in trouble because I was defiant because I
mhm,
loved playing and being with friends as a youth.
mhm,
And but then there was a transitional period that I started getting good, and
mm.
So I guess somewhere around 1973, I started playing with a lot of very, very high talented players that were older than me. I went on a trip to Detroit with this organization called Rivers. I'm sorry, excuse me, Restoration in Brooklyn.
Mm, mhm,
And who was on the trip was guys like Sam Worthing, um, Bernard King,
mm,
Albert King, Jeff Houston. And so that the high level players from Brooklyn went to this event that in Detroit called St. Ceciliaville that Dick Vitale ran. And
mhm,
they were, it was a tournament. And I went, I was like 13 years old. And only two people of 13-year-old age group went. It was me and Albert King. Everybody else was like juniors and seniors in high school.
mhm.
Albert got to play while he was there. We were there for like about 9 days. I didn't play not 1 minute, not
Mhm.
1 minute. But I was learning.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
older guys mentored me and they were like, just do what we do. So I learned how to, conduct yourself on the court, on the layup line, paying attention to coaches. Because while we're there, we practice every day, even though we play games every day as well. And so I was
Mhm,
practicing with these guys. Come home and I become unstoppable in that sense because when you
mhm.
go away somewhere, you start pushing your chest out,
Yeah, you got
for
that
your
confidence,
experience
that
stuff.
confidence
Yeah,
flowing.
exactly.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
now at 13 years old, I go into high school and I'm playing really well. First game in high school, I come off the bench, freshman,
What
scored
school
like
you at high school?
I was at Midwood High School in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And first game, I think we played against Lafayette High School, which was like the runner-up the city championship that year, and they
Mhm,
destroyed us. But I came off the bench, 18 points. Every game
mhm.
after that, my career I started. So,
Mm.
so it's like people started noticing and saying like this guy I guess is good. Before I know it, the following year in 1974, Street and Smiths list me as a honorable mention as a sophomore in the East Region, I guess. And it was like about 6 or 7 of us listed in Brooklyn.
I remember
Some
Street
of
and
my
Smith.
Yeah, and it's like me, Albert King, Wayne McCoy, Ray James, Earl Fuller. We were guys that were looked upon as the next coming of players, and I maintained that status with them during the course of that. But once again, the family dynamic got in the way, being
Mhm,
punished, and my mom being very upset with me going to play, and I mean the punishments were tough. So it's like, well,
mm,
you're gonna punish me. I'm not gonna go to class. And my junior year, when things were going great, finished playing in the summertime, uh, high school, Rucker tournament MVP, and so everything looking great. I fell off the team,
Now,
and
now let's rewind a little bit. With all of this balling going on, middle school, high school, AAU, is the syndrome affecting you anyway physically?
well, yeah, because what it is that for all intents and purposes, I guess it starts out as a heart murmur. So,
Mhm,
there's an impact. You feel it in your chest. That it races and it stops, and it slows down and it stops, and you feel
mm,
it. And but just that effect of knowing that disease is there, it's kind of
mm,
like if I played, and I used to play football, it's kind of like hitting people, and like I like that feeling. It's like, oh, you always back off a bit, and you don't want to give it all because you don't know what's going to
mm.
happen. And
Yeah.
plus the explanation, doctor wise, and my mom trying to put that fear in you, like, don't do that, it'll kill you, so
Mhm,
you're
mhm,
afraid. You walk out of the
mm,
house like, walking on eggshells to some degree, but you hide it. You're young. You get on the court or you're doing something, you totally forget about it as a kid, right?
mhm,
But there are moments where it's kind of like, oh, holy smokes, and that still happens to this day for all that matters for me.
mm.
And
Wow.
so it was on my mind constantly. And so that right then and there, like during that time frame, it thwarted like my opportunities from being, two shoe boxes full of like 400, college letters as a sophomore, that
Mhm,
everyone lost interest because of the grade issue.
mm,
Meanwhile, quite honestly, Mike, I was like a 98 point grade student. I'm serious.
I know. I've
But I,
been around you. I know you pretty smart. So I'm like, he probably, yeah. When you said you wasn't going to class, that makes sense.
yeah, and it's like, I go in and take the final, pass the math final with like a 90, but state law says if you don't meet the requirement of attendance, you
Mm,
automatically fail. If you don't meet the
mm,
standard of being in class a certain amount of time during the year, then you automatically fail. And that's what happened. And sometimes you kind of like you're smelling yourself and you're saying, well,
mm-hmm,
they'll pass me. I'm a
mm-hmm,
superstar.
mm-hmm,
Eric Short. But they were
mm-hmm,
like, no, this is an academic environment and you're not doing the process properly, so you
mm-hmm,
have to pay the price, and that's the way it is. And that actually, I'm glad that did happen, you know
mm-hmm,
but I had to recover from that, and just to back up for a second, and like, just so that you'll get an idea of how serious this situation was. My mother worked for a company called Proskauer. It's a law firm.
mm-hmm,
Proskauer, Rose, Getz, and Mendenthal. Proskauer's 300 Park Avenue. They are the lawyers for the NBA.
mm,
David Stern came from there. Adam Silver, I think if he didn't come from there, I know his dad did. The NHL commissioner came from there as well. 10 years old, mom told me to come up to work, and my mom was like the fund manager there, so she handled all the money in the firm. Sit me down, we're having lunch in their cafeteria, and David Stern walks up with a scout, and they sit down. My mom breaks out. And so they're sitting there, hey, Eric, how you doing? Your mom's great, blah, 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 blah. Maybe you shouldn't play sports. You should, focus on your education, da, da,
mm.
da, da, da. Yeah, we hear you're pretty smart. And I'm like, Mr. Stern, like, did my mom tell you to talk to me? Because it's like her words are coming out of your mouth,
Uh-huh,
you know?
uh-huh,
And it's like, and they're like, yeah, she told us to speak to you. And that's because,
mm,
like, me defying her, she's trying to find a way to get to me, like to
mm-hmm,
get me to understand what she's doing. So it's like, let me ask him, because I knew who he was and what he did. And she was like, let me have, him speak to my or maybe they both agreed to it. I don't know. But that scenario kind of like said that this is serious, and but still I wanted to play, and I was of a,
mm,
at that age, I still wasn't really clear as to where I was going with it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But after it's all said and done, I mean, I made it through my career playing, but I had to end up doing prep school, so I
mm-hmm,
reclassed, and then
mm,
after reclassing, at the prep school, I went to JUCO
mm-hmm,
in Kentucky. And but when I was reclassing, I was reclassing in the New York City area, Mike. So I had an opportunity to still participate in a high level, and I guess me and a couple other guys were looked at as like sleepers, right? So we are like the
mm-hmm,
high, like the top of the list on sleepers, and they ended up playing against the Russian Olympic team in their tour
mm-hmm,
that they do every year. And I'm playing with quality players, Scooter McCrae, Rodney McCrae, Eric Marbury, Sid Green, and I'm
mm,
playing well, as usual, because I guess I had skills,
mm-hmm,
Um, and then I still play with like the elite stuff with Riverside. Won a national championship out in Arizona. So my skill sets was still there, and coaches started looking at me. I played really well in the championship game, so opportunities started presenting themselves again. And Murray
mm-hmm,
State wanted me, so it's either play or sit, like play at a JUCO or sit out at Murray State and redshirt with I think Gary Hooker from Manhattan was redshirting at the time there
mm-hmm,
as well. So I decided to play at JUCO, which is like the school was maybe about 20 minutes away from Murray State in Paducah, and we did great, number 3 in the country. Um, and so I was coming back. My grades were straight. I did what I had to do, and things were looking great. And I knew once again that what am I going to do now? How am I going to like propel that? And what's the decision I'm going to make? And but the JUCO was a great environment, but you had problems. I got hurt, and the coach is like, either you play or you go back to Brooklyn. And
Mm.
it was a high level, a high ankle sprain, and a high class. It was like class 3 sprain, and on a road trip. And it was like I was like, what are you talking about? I can't even. I'm on crutches. Play or go back to Brooklyn.
Mm.
So, and plus, the Ku Klux Klan's messing around with you out there, And I'm like, you know what? I'm not coming back to this place. So,
Mm.
finals were over. I was out, and oddly enough, guys that I used to ball with in the summertime back in Brooklyn, they were like, guys are playing ball like 3 o'clock at LIU, whole bunch of guys, like 30, 40 guys. So I go down there, and guys I played against in high school, and say, yeah, I transferred back to LIU, like 6 guys. But then I all
Mm.
played that one guy I was in kindergarten with. He passed away, Riley Clarita, my high school teammate, Gerard Burns, Rudy Johnson, Earl Fuller. These are all guys that I played with and against in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that transition of saying, like, well, all these guys did, and the coach comes downstairs and he's like, Eric Short, and we start talking. So I was like, I'm thinking about going back to JUCO or Murray State. So she transfer here, and so I'm like, cool. And so they checked my grades, and like I could play right away. I didn't have to wait
Mm.
because my
Mm.
SATs were off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And so but there were no scholarships left. So I had to. My parents paid, my the tuition for the first year. But I started like first 7 games. I'm serious. And
Uh.
and we were like in a fluxed team. Like there were a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like issues between how this team, with all of the talent that we had, how we were performing. And there was a lack of, quite honestly, is the lack of coaching. There was a lot of talent on the
Mm.
team, but we didn't have coaching. We had, we were 7 foot, 6'11", 6'9". We had Andrew Bynum's father was the starting center.
Wow.
Ernest Bynum.
Wow.
Ernest Bynum was the
Mm.
center, man. And it's really funny. And so, like, we just so underachieved. The following year, one of the best leaders I've ever played with in my life, Rudy Johnson, may he rest in peace. We were roommates the following year, and we were still underperforming. And he was like, Eric, man, this is crazy. It's like you were like high school All-American, Earl Fuller, high school All-American. It's like Riley Clarita, like, it's like all city. Like, what's wrong here? And it's like we started pushing ourselves to be
Mm.
successful because the coaches weren't doing that. They were coaching, but they weren't motivating you to be better than what you are, Mike. So it's like
Wow.
you're
Yeah.
playing, and it's like if you're playing at a level 2, they were complacent with you being at a level 2. But they didn't know how to elevate you to a 3, 4, 5 in
Mm-hmm.
skill level development or in knowledge or anything. So we had to do it ourselves. And it's no disrespect to these guys. 20, 30 years later, it's the truth is the truth.
Facts. Facts.
Um, but the Rudy Johnson, like I said, my roommate, and we were co-captains. He got us to rethink what we were doing, and so I'm playing the 3 now. So I'm a glue guy and connecting the big guys and the guards. And Rudy's leading the charge. We had Rob Cole from Orange, New Jersey, was our point guard.
Wow.
Yeah,
For
yeah, Rob
faces.
Cole.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
RJ's father, you
Yeah.
know, and we were just running and gunning like crazy. It's like everybody on the team's
Wow.
averaging more than 10
Cool.
points a game, and
Uh-huh.
we turned it around. Um, Facing, if I remember correctly, no, I think Jim Barbano had left Iona, but we were facing Iona to see who goes to the NCAA tournament, and we knocked them out. And they
Mm.
were winning and consistently going, like representing our conference, which was the Northeast Conference back in those days,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
NEC. And so we came out of it and had the experience of playing in the tournament, first time for the school ever in its history.
Wow.
Um, and it was like it was a great event. Oddly enough, I live there now. I live in Charlotte. That's where they sent
Mhm.
us, you know.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and we got our ass kicked by VCU,
Yeah.
but I played great, man. I had like 26, and it kind of like I represented the school. I mean, and there were
Mm,
games where I played well like that. Um, Oddly enough, I see historical information about my career or the school's career, and there
mhm,
were games where like big games I played well. Games that weren't big games, I didn't, and it was like that roller coaster skill set. 28 points, 13 points, 22 points, 9 points. Like it was like
mm,
I was like a ping pong ball.
mhm, mhm.
But the disease was on my mind, and it was even more evident because it was more expected because it's tougher regimen in college.
Yeah, the
Um,
working out and the training and the yeah,
yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. Wow.
and
Wow. So
and
when you
so
was in college, did they like when they gave you the physicals, did they say anything about it or they just let
no,
it
it
go?
was the exact same type of physical as high school. Cough, yeah, cough, blood pressure, get out of here. Next,
Wow.
yeah, and it's
Wow.
like, and when you think about it, it's kind of like you're walking out of the room. I'm like, but first when you walk in the room, you're kind of like, oh man, they're gonna find something,
Yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of like, and to me, I kind of feel like a person that's on drugs, and I take a urine test, and I was like, well, they're gonna see something in there. But it
Mhm,
was like
mhm,
they didn't test it, so
mm,
I'm cool. But the funny thing is, though, Mike, I mean, when I think about it, when it's all said and done, um, I was so happy, excuse me, that it ended because I just
mm,
got tired of living the game incomplete. And the way
mm.
I am as a player, where I was as a
That's deep.
player,
That's deep.
I could never lift weights. So I could never get like man strength. You know what I mean? I could be strong as a high school player, easy. You're not lifting or anything like that. But when we're in the weight room and everybody's lifting and I'm sitting there chilling, and I'm the captain, so I'm like charting people's workouts,
Mhm,
and I'm like I'm not doing anything. But
mm.
what I did do was isometric stuff and running and things of that nature. Like I would work out with the soccer team and do that kind of stuff versus doing the lifting. And because the lifting, when you have heart issues, lifting puts pressure on your
Put
heart.
pressure on the heart, yeah.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
told specifically no lifting weights as a kid. Specifically, you should never
Mm,
ever lift weights because that
mm,
pressure might, you know, um, create a problem. And so, and that might have been a stretch of explanation from them. But as a kid, you don't know. It's like, oh my God, it's like I can't
mhm.
do this, I can't do that. So anytime I'm straining to do something, it's on my mind. You know what I mean? If
Wow.
I'm holding a pair of pliers, and I'm trying to, turn a nut, and I'm like really struggling, I will stop and I say,
Wow.
I don't need to do that, and because it's just in my head, and
Wow.
and you
Wow.
can't. I don't know if I can't shake it. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, and even now, like so. Let me back up a second.
Mhm,
So after it was all said and done, I kind of gave it up. Once
mhm,
college was done, Mike, I was like, you know what? I played in a couple of pro leagues here and there, the City College,
mhm,
Rucker,
mhm.
playing, the same, same kind of player. Um, but it was kind of like, what's the big deal? It's like I got
Yeah.
to get a job, and I got to take my behind and get out of my parents' house for all that matters. Even though they would have let me stay, but I'm just saying it's
Mhm.
that the progression of
Yeah,
things.
100% life.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I started just like didn't know what to do. So at first I went back to schools, and I was like working part time in like Abraham and Strauss. And oddly enough, one of my college teammates, Jeff Merriweather, who came, he was like a really good player, and Jeff was dating this young lady. And years later, after I was done playing and I'm working at Abraham and Strauss, I met her. She was, like shopping, and I met her. And I remember who she was. And then before you know it, she started coming back all the time, visiting and shopping and
Mhm,
visiting and shopping. I should have known that she was a shopper, right?
mhm.
Um, and we got, and so like the thing went to another level, and we got engaged and got married.
Mm.
And through the course of that, she had moved out of Brooklyn and moved to Monmouth County, New Jersey. That's where her parents were living.
Okay.
And that's how, then that was a connection for me to get into Monmouth County and move there. Um, which was a good move for me, even though, walking away from Brooklyn, because I had started doing a little
Mm-hmm.
couple of coaching there and community and doing stuff and being involved in the community in some ways. Because away from the basketball environment, I was there for the Crown Heights riots with the Jews.
Mm.
And I lived in Crown Heights, which is one of the largest Hasidic Jewish communities in America. So I was there when those riots happened,
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
Roy Innes and Al Sharpton were in the family's house. I was in the vestibule in there too. And I
Wow.
don't know what made me, participate in that level, but I did. And so I started, hearing like the on roads of what they wanted to try to resolve, the conflict there in the community. I think it was like some young Hasidic men who were rappers, and so
Mm.
and they made a movie about this, about the rap, Hasidic Jews rapping. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I was in those meetings, and so I started
Mm.
getting involved in the community in that manner. But then, before you know it, my daughter Amanda was born, and we jet to New Jersey and leave Brooklyn
Mm-hmm.
behind. In that sense, um, and it's to grow the family and do whatever it is. And I made that transition, and that's when I ran into, or at least met, um, Tim Morgan.
My guy, man. My guy, man. The New Jersey
Yeah,
Wildcats, man.
yes. Where may he rest in peace, man.
Yeah, yeah. Rest in peace, man. The
Yeah,
brother
and
really put
that
me on, man.
yeah, and that experience, like prior to meeting Tim, actually though, I got started with the rec basketball community in the
Mm-hmm.
community, and it was horrible. And so I go to it was horrible. So I go to, in a football town, I go to the board meeting, and I'm like, what is there going on for girls here? Like, I don't understand.
Uh-huh.
Like Girl Scouts, like that. Why there's no girls sports? Nobody's pushing that. And everyone's pushing football, even putting football in the gymnasium they're practicing, but the basketball guys can't practice because you got the football team in there. And they got, I don't know, uproar. Who is this man come in talking this nonsense? So I said, okay. I started coaching rec, and my son and my brother-in-law.
Mm.
Um, Before I know it, we're beating teams by 50 points in the rec league.
Mm.
It was ridiculous. So it's like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm teaching them how to play, because I'm bringing guys into the parks, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
showing them stuff and teaching them as a group to be a good, at all positions, whatever position they play. And then Amanda starts playing, my daughter. And so that was a horrible experience, because I wanted her to get the experience in. And at that time, girls basketball in Monmouth County blew up in New Jersey in
Mm.
total.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those years was like, Mati Ajavon. That was the same year she
Mm-hmm.
graduated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, what's there for her? How is she going to get the best out of this? You're playing rec ball, and it's horrible. The competition is terrible. So I started a girls team. Um, Paid for them all, the whole team, to go and play in the Poconos basketball camp. The girls came back with the bug, Mike. They
Mm.
wanted the ball. They wanted to be ballers. They
Mm.
saw, girls just like them. And Amanda was the ringleader, because she was playing anyway. And it became, like this big thing. So it's like, how do we grow this? And in meeting Tim, and then hooking up with Rich Brunson, Carl Town
My
Senior, and
boy.
you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
we
Yep. Yep.
we're messing around now with the New Jersey Wildcats. Um,
Facts. Facts.
and
Facts.
that was an incredible experience, because
It
we're talking
was,
about
man.
5 gentlemen that had a vast array of knowledge, just helping all these guys,
Yeah,
all
that
of
was
them.
dope, man. That was dope. I
Yeah,
remember him. I remember him taking us like doing the Nike circuit when it wasn't what they do now. When you had to go to all the different places, like it wasn't no Boo Williams arena. We
right.
had to go to all of the different high schools when we go to Boo Williams tournament.
Yeah,
When I was coaching in Boo Williams tournament, then we flying to Houston for the Kingwood Classic.
and we
You
won
know what I
that.
mean?
And we won.
Yeah. Then we then we down in going to all the Charlie Weber tournaments. Remember
Yeah,
Charlie Weber joints down in
yeah.
Maryland,
And
DC,
it's like, and
Georgetown, and
yeah,
yeah,
and the players, the respect that comes out of them from what is
yeah.
being done, and but also you're looking at, the program growing and becoming more.
Yeah.
But Tim Morgan did something that kind of changed the whole trajectory for me. One day he calls me and it's like, "Hey, I'm heading up to somewhere up by you, up in Trenton on
Mm-hmm.
Route 1." And it's like we stopped out of Fridays and it's like we're sitting down, and this big, white guy, old scruffy looking, comes in the place and he's like ordering like wings and eating like I don't know what. And it's Mike Flynn.
Mm-hmm. I saw you
And
was with Blue Star. Yeah, Mike Flynn
yeah,
was the guy, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we're sitting down and he introduced me to Mike and we start talking. So Mike is grilling me and he's asking questions. I can see it's like an interview. I'm like, okay, this is the answer. This is the answer. And when it's all said and done, we leave. And before you know it, Mike, like invites me. Like I bring Amanda to Blue Star, but then Mike
Mm-hmm.
invites me to be one of the coaches at Blue Star.
Mm.
So I
Tim
start.
had it. Yeah. Tim
Yeah,
had the connections, man. I remember when we was trying to get our deal, we was at Salisbury and George Raveling came in there, man. He had
yeah, yeah,
like he knew how to talk. You know how
yeah,
to talk. The next thing you know, we had Nike stuff coming to the house and this and that. We had Nike gear and all of this stuff. Like he knew how to talk. I give him that, man. And I
yeah.
always respect the fact that he put me on, man. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and
So go
it's
ahead.
like, and it's really weird because like not only just experience with Blue Star and
Mm-hmm.
Mike, but like I learned how to do showcases because of
Mm.
how Mike did the Blue Star, at least for girls, how
Yeah,
that
yeah,
process
yeah.
was. And then and plus my face was out there, so the
Mm-hmm.
athletes started seeing me. So you had like
Mm-hmm.
Christy Samoji and all of them were seeing me and involved in this. And but then going for what you brought up, and
Mm-hmm.
may he rest in peace, man. And I'm talking about
Yeah.
George Raveling.
Yeah, it did.
Man,
It
we,
did.
we we drove over to blasted Salisbury Prep,
Yeah.
and with Andrew
Yep,
Bynum,
yep, yep,
and it's
yep,
like we're
yep.
working players out, and George and like two other Nike executives are like they're there in the gym with us, so it's like it's do or die
100%,
for
100%,
us.
100%, 100%.
Do
I
or
remember
die.
that. I
And
remember
so it's
that.
kind of
Yeah.
like, it's weird because Tim used to always be like, Eric, like get those guys squared away, like he's delegating what he wants people to do. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're having company, so you're straightening up.
Uh-huh.
So he wants
Uh-huh.
to make sure
Uh-huh.
everything is
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I specifically remember like they were kind of like the guys were nonchalant. And I blew the whistle. I brought everybody come in the middle of court. And I said, look, come here. And I got real close. I'm like, let me tell you something, man. You got Nikes in here. You're not going to mess this up for us. So you
Indeed,
better get
indeed,
in
indeed,
gear. I'm no serious because
indeed.
we're being interviewed now, basically. And you're being
100%.
interviewed. So
100%.
you got to be on your best behavior right now because we're trying to get this done for you guys and the legacy of what
Mm.
we're trying to do. And it worked. It worked. I mean, we were all like
100%.
doing. We never argued. We had
It was
differences.
love, 100%.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
dope, especially when we was on the road. It was mad fun on the road, man. And Tim
yeah,
got me my first job. I couldn't take the job because it was too far from where I worked, but he had got me a coaching job at East Brunswick Votech. And he had got me that coaching job. I went met the players, but then I was working in Red Bank and the commute was too far after work to make it there at the time. So I couldn't take that job. But I always respect the fact that he put me on, man. He
yeah,
definitely put me on, man. We was playing at Rutgers Elite Camp, and I was coaching against Hurley and them, and it was
yeah.
like,
And Metro Hoops,
yeah,
Metro
yeah,
Hoops.
100%. Yeah, then I left and I started working with them. I started working with Galen
Yeah,
at
but
Metro Hoops.
Tim put
Yeah,
what Tim put me because I don't know if you noticed. You might notice though, but Mandy was like real. It was unhappy environment at Mattawan, right?
yeah.
And
Then she went to St. Pat's, right?
yeah, man. And it's like, but
Yeah.
Mike, but Tim like hooked me up with the coach, the girls coach there. So I always end up being, and it's like the local guys in Mattawan had introduced me to the coach of St. Pat, so that
Mhm.
transition happened. But once I started being the assistant coach there, they started squealing, saying, "Oh, that assistant coach is their AAU coach," and it was like you're breaking in.
Yeah.
You're like throwing
Yeah.
us under the bus,
You know
and
how it
it's
go.
yeah, but it's weird because we lived in Monmouth County. I worked in
Mhm.
Newark. St.
Mhm.
Patrick's is in Elizabeth. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
working at Prudential, and so I would leave at 3, and I left at 3 anyway, but I would leave at 3 to go to practice or games, and it was okay. But what happened is, like, when the season was over, Amanda was coming to Newark to the job and sitting in the office, like, doing her homework while I'm working. And they were like, "Oh, she can't be doing that anymore." We're not going to get
Yeah.
into all of that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
so I had to put her back into Mattawan for a senior year because I
Wow.
could. They were like, "You can't leave early anymore. We're
Mm-hmm.
transitioning. There's a lot of business going on." Blah blah blah. I worked on a trading desk for
Mm-hmm.
Prudential, so it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
it was really tough to do that in the first place. But that transition and that when that happened and putting them back, um, that was an experience. But just being part of St. Pat's and with Coach Boyle and like with
Yeah, that's when it
and
was
that was
real.
yeah, and that was Mike Nardi's senior year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so and we got to be pretty cool, with Ray Miller and the coaching staff there. But what happened is like that made me moving away that stagnated where I could have possibly been going
Mm-hmm.
career
Mm-hmm.
wise and
Mm-hmm.
coaching. And that was fine because you have to do what's right by my family, and that's always going to trump everything in the first place. My livelihood for raising my daughter and our daughter, and so that was more important. So it's like you kind of like you just leave it alone, and that's when we finally decided because she got a scholarship to play the D2 school down in North Carolina. We
Mm-hmm.
sold the house and came down here because the banking industry is here as well.
Best movie probably ever made, especially
Yeah.
cost of living.
Well, not only that though, Mike, because that's when all hell broke loose. After I got here, that's when my aorta tore open on St.
Mm.
Patrick's Day 2005.
Take us there.
And it was we had just came home from somewhere. We were away, got Jersey Mike's sitting
Mm-hmm.
right where I'm sitting right now. Went up to the bedroom. Before I know it, I'm telling my wife, call 911 because something happened in my
Mm.
chest. I don't know what that was. I felt like it would lift me up off the ground. I'm dead serious.
Mm.
Um, Staircase in our house turned, so they couldn't bring the gurney up there. So I actually walk downstairs while my aorta is like pumping and blood is coming out of it and going places where it's not supposed to go. Because when your aorta dissects and every time your heart beats, it's kind of like you breaking the water hose, and you start seeing it spill. It'll
Yeah.
still come out the hose properly, but they're still leaking. And 10 minutes later, you're dead. I got to the hospital like around 10 minutes. They brought me there, had the surgery, and they repaired it with pig skin, which is normally what
Mm.
they do. And it happened on, it's weird because it happened on St. Patrick's Day,
Wow.
March 17th, man. And the weird thing is Amanda was playing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was at the end of the season. So it's like, tournament time. And they were like, she left school, and it's like, my dad's in the hospital. Like, it's crazy. And the coach was like, hey, when you coming back? And she's like, my daughter caught Mandy cursed the coach out. She's like, what are you? She's like, what are you freaking stupid? Like, my dad's in the hospital with tubes in him, and you're worried about basketball. It's like, I'm
Mm.
never coming back to this school because
Wow.
that's an inconsiderate response. Like, we
Yeah.
need you to play basketball. No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter
Yeah.
of fact, the whole damn team should have been there in the hospital emergency room waiting with her. That's
Facts.
what that's what
Facts.
you would have thought would have happened, you know.
Facts.
But selling that selling point for that conduct to be like that, she made the decision on her own.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness she transferred and graduated, like a year later because it was like she had stopped going to school and everything first, so she lost a semester. But she got it squared away, and years later, where it's in the past. But that experience, man, was it was unbelievable because what happened is I had complications and this thing
Mm-hmm.
called compartment syndrome, which one of your limbs will enlarge and swell.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to relieve the pressure, they cut. Like in this case, I had compartment syndrome in my right arm, and so they cut it. They debrided it with like this scar here that you see,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened is that the muscles deteriorated, so I lost the use of my right hand, and
Mm,
so now I'm shooting jumpers with my left.
mm,
you
mm,
know, but all of that's happening. But at the same time, though, that same year, I started a camp here with some gentlemen here that ran an AAU program.
mm,
And I
mm,
started Elite 75 Prep, and I stole the
I
idea
remember
from
that. I remember that.
yeah, and so we stole the idea of Blue Star. That was that same concept, and did
Hmm.
it, here. And the first, and it's actually I got kind of I started feeling the remnants of the sickness was starting to happen to me as time went on. Like the first camp we did, and everybody started noticing and saying like, "Hey, this camp is great." And but I got sick the next year where I came back. We did the camp again, and we kept doing the
Hmm.
camp. Before you know it, Nike's showing up,
Hmm.
and Nike is like seeing what we're doing, and then ESPN shows up with Paul
Hmm.
Biancardi because
I
Paul
remember
lives
that.
here. Yeah,
Yeah,
Paul
you had
lives.
it popping. You had it
Yeah,
popping down there. I remember.
and
I
so
reached out
yeah,
to you a couple times during that
yeah,
time.
and it was ridiculous because people come with players were coming from like Utah and
Hmm.
Colorado. And so it's like, wow, like things are great. And so, Paul's like, he's giving us our props, saying that it's a good camp, in the Southeast. Now, meanwhile, there used to be Bob Gibbons here
I remember
in North
that.
Carolina. And we knocked out Bob Gibbons. And then there was
Mm,
Dave Tellup.
that was my guy. Dave was a
Yeah.
cool guy.
And I gotta
Yeah,
I
Dave
gotta
was a
talk
cool
to
guy.
him as a matter of fact.
Dave
But
was a cool
Dave,
guy, man.
yeah, Dave was like now he's down with San Antonio now.
Yeah, I remember when
He's
he.
the head
I
scout.
remember Dave Talib used to be a scout for. I used to see him on the circuit when I was with Metro Hoops at the high
Yeah,
school circuit. Yeah,
yeah.
at the prime time
Mhm.
and all those events, slam dunk to the beach. Dave was super cool, man.
Yeah.
Now that's
And
a
it's
good
like,
guy right there. Good
yeah,
guy right
and when he got the job as the head scout for the San Antonio Spurs, they announced it like about a month before our camp was going to be on.
there.
So we
Hmm.
invited him to the camp, and our camp was the last camp that he did
He was
before
from
he got.
down there, right? He lived down that way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, huh?
Yeah, yep, yep. You're
And
right. Yep,
before
I
he
remember.
before
I
he
remember.
before he shipped out to San Antonio, our camp was the last camp he did. We gave him a
Dave
cake,
was
and we shut the camp
wow.
down and gave him a cake, and I spoke and told
That's
about his
dope,
history and
man.
everything. Yeah, he was a good man, and
100%,
and so
100%
like
good guy, man.
yeah, and so our footprint started becoming noticeable, and
Hmm.
so years had passed, and we're doing great. 2016 rolls up.
Hmm. Take me there, brother, because I definitely heard about it, man.
Yeah, 2016 rolls up, man. And I'm in New York. I'm there for something. My wife and we're hanging out. Daughter's their husband, and every time I'm walking, I'm like, damn, I'm tired. I gotta sit down. And it's like every 20 steps, man. Like this is
Mm.
crazy, man. I didn't know what I couldn't breathe, man. It was kind of like it was unbelievable. And it's weird because we started walking around Manhattan. We went to like where there's West 4th Street basketball tournament, the pro league, and I went there to see guys I know, and I'm like, I'm struggling like big time. I drove 609 miles. I drove all the way back to North Carolina. Turns out I had a heart attack and my aorta
Mm.
tore. And I rushed me into the hospital and damn, 26 and a half hour surgery.
That's crazy.
I died twice on the table. They brought me back. I was in a coma for 10 days. Um, what else? Oh, and I had massive complications, and I mean massive,
Mm.
as you can see.
Yeah.
They amputated half of both my fingers, the tip of my thumb. They took my whole right hand,
Mm.
and they took half of both of my feet. And the reason being is the surgery is very long and it's a bloody surgery as well because they took my aorta out of my body and they
Hmm.
put a mechanical one in of the root of the aorta. And from that surgery, they give you medication to push your blood towards your torso because it's a bloody surgery. So they need a lot of blood. And that length of time, 26 hours, your chest is open and like I guess the risk of that medication is that they push blood away from your extremities. So the risk is that your extremities could die and not come back.
Mm.
So after the 26 hours, the being in a coma for 11 days, 10 days, I wake up and my hand and my feet are bandaged. And I don't know why. Uh,
Mm.
And so they're like, well, you know, we had some complications. Okay, yeah, okay. I don't know. I don't know why. What's going on? Like my hands, and they're massively bandaged. It's not like a little
Mhm.
bandage, like a band-aid. We're talking like a big wrap over my
Mhm.
hands and my feet.
Mhm.
And, oh man, they take the they take the wrapping off of my hand, and my hand is as black as your phone
Mm.
and dried up like almost mummified. And you could see it was like gangrene was heading that
Wow.
direction. It was like
Wow.
it was like a caravan of gangrene was on its way. I'm just in my mind, that's what I'm thinking, you know, because I see the condition of my hands. They take the bandages off my feet and it's the same thing. And it's crazy. So I think it was like around must have been a month before they waited to see if if they would come back. And it didn't. So they had to make a decision to either, to amputate them because if gangrene sets in and it gets into my bloodstream, then it'll kill me, right? So, and especially being that it was in 4 locations, the hands and feet. So the decision was they had to amputate it to in
What's
order. I mean, you know,
what's going through your mind during that month before they told you though?
I was in ICU,
Mm.
and believe it or not, my senses and my faith and my belief system and my morals and even my athletic experience calmed me
Mm.
to dealing with the facts that are sitting in front of me. What else am I supposed to do when somebody's telling me either do this or die? I
Wow.
mean, it's an easy decision. Now, there's a
Wow.
caveat to all of this to make sense for everybody to understand. Um, this disease killed my father. This
Wow.
disease killed some of my uncles. This disease killed my brother.
Mm.
And so, and my brother died after my incidents happened. But for me, I just had a solemn mentality regarding what had to be done. Do what the doctors say, no matter what, at all
Mm.
costs, because I trusted them.
Mhm.
These doctors saved my life. And
Mm.
so whatever they told me to do, Mike, I distinctly made the decision right away that I woke up. And the reason why I woke up because this man saved my life. Believe it or not,
Mm.
a Arabic doctor, I'll say his name, Dr. Menet Takla, one of the best thoracic surgeons on planet Earth, in my opinion. I don't care what anybody says. This man saved my life. Each time I had a surgery, he did the surgery and he saved my life. So for
Wow, bro.
me, if he tells me, Eric, I need for you to jump in front of this bus, I'm gonna do it because I know Dr. Tackler's not he's thinking of my best interest, you know?
Mhm.
And I did what I was told. And so, knowing I had the disease, and now I'm at a junction where I had to make a decision and say, what am I going to do? How am I going to conduct myself? Like I'm getting this starch information. Like what am I'm going crazy internally, and not once did I ever ask the Lord to say, why are you doing this to me? I never questioned
Mm.
that. It's like better. And I said this, and it's odd. I said it to the girl in the supermarket this afternoon. I looked at my hand. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I said, "No, what are you sorry for? Better this happened to me than you, because you couldn't handle this. You couldn't handle this.
Whoa.
What
That's
I
deep.
went through, you couldn't
That's deep.
handle this." And
That's
Mike,
deep.
I'm not selling anybody short. What I experienced, man, I'm gonna start crying, man, about this. I'm not joking, man. It's unbelievable. Just to let you also know, you know, the heart beats like about 100,000 times a day. a
Mhm.
hundred thousand times a day. Ever since 2016, when they took my aorta out and put the mechanical one in, I have while I am awake, not during the sleeping hours, when I am awake, I have heard every single one of my heartbeats since 2016. I can hear
Wow.
it now. I hear every beat. That's how
Wow.
loud it is. If you get close to my face, you can hear it beating. That's how
Mm,
loud it is. And people, and it's funny, my wife and daughter, they're like, like what's that? Peter Pan, right? With the
mhm,
alligator with that swallowed the clock.
mhm,
It's like you can hear it. You can hear it. And so for me, that in itself is a constant reminder. I'm listening
mhm,
to it as I'm talking to you. Like every
mm,
single beat. And sometimes it'll go fast. It'll rev and like speed up. And I'm like, whoa, I
mhm,
gotta kind of calm it down, you know. And it's like, and it's a weird thing because, and I said, I don't know when the floor is going to fall up underneath me because the next one, I don't think I would survive it if this happens again. My body's been through a lot, Mike. It's been through
How
a
do
lot.
you how do you where do you get the faith to live in your purpose and just keep going out doing your testimony?
Well, the first thing is because I'm a motor mouth and I talk to people, and I do that anyway,
Mm,
and you know that because I
mhm.
walk into a
Yeah,
room
100%. 100%.
and I mean,
Uh-huh.
no matter who's in there,
Uh-huh.
but the purpose, and that's a key word. Is my purpose. Like, what is Eric Shaw's purpose? And it's funny because Amanda and I talk about this all the time, and we have that innate
Mhm,
ability to get people to listen to us and to pay
mhm,
attention. And Shane, when I'm speaking, people say that this guy's like he's honorable. He's telling the
mhm.
truth. Eric's not going to lie to you, and nobody's going to beat me up, so I don't care. I can say whatever the hell I want.
There you go.
I'm
That's
telling
E
you,
short.
yeah, the Lord gave me a mouth, but the Lord gave
Uh-huh.
me a mouth to use it. And I know there's laws and rules and all that stuff,
Mhm.
but that it doesn't not no none of them say that I can't speak. And
Facts.
nobody's going to tell me to be quiet. You can't. No one on earth can tell me to be quiet and get away
Facts.
with that. If I don't want to be quiet, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to be
Mhm,
respectful. So my purpose, I just transitioned what my purpose is with people and how I deal with people in every walk of life, wherever it is, supermarket, work, on a
mm,
plane. I engage people, and so
mm,
and it's to add value. So I knew I had to become a solemn person, back off on everything, even back off on my faith, because he put me in this situation and now it's my turn. He gave me
mm.
free will. I have a responsibility. You know how they say, um, prayer without works is dead.
Dead.
You have to
100%.
put the
Faith.
time in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you got
so
it.
I could pray until I'm blue in the face, but if I walk out and shoot somebody in the head, then it's immaterial. I have to
Mhm,
put the effort in. And so I look at
mhm,
people and Mike, this is really weird. Amanda and I have this ability, like we feel people's pain and stuff. Like I'll see somebody
facts.
crying, I start crying. And I'm like, I'll
Mm,
say, like, what's the matter? Anything wrong? Why are you looking so sad? And I do that in
mm,
the supermarkets, like, smile. What's wrong? Oh, I had a hard day today. Well, tell me why. Oh, you don't want to hear it. Why? I ask because I want to hear why. Because I
mm.
might have a solution to get you through this moment. And the person's like, who the heck is this guy? And now it's like,
Wow.
oh, there goes coach. Because that's what they do. I'm telling you,
Look at
everywhere I
God.
go, it's like,
Yeah,
wherever
God
it is,
working through you.
Chinese restaurant,
Yeah,
it's like, hey, there goes coach. What you got, coach? You want your usual
yeah,
coach? And
yeah.
it's like somebody rings my doorbell and they want to sell me something. Hey, you sir, I think maybe you might need some new windows. You came to my door, you're gonna hear what I have to say. So sit down,
I love
and
it.
it's
I
like
love
forget
it.
your sales pitch. Listen to what I have
Mhm.
to say. I want you to walk away as a better person. Forget about the
Wow.
product you're selling. And
Wow.
so I always use my voice to get through and you enact like it's having a self conversation. It's like, what am I going to do now? I'm alive. My
Mhm.
wife is right here. Every time I opened up my eyes from these surgeries, my wife is right there because they had to
Oh, praise
amputate,
to the
like,
Most
let me
High,
see, it's
man.
1, 2, 3, 4, like 8 surgeries, and every time I open my eyes, she's there. So I have to
Mm,
rationalize that she's there, she's putting in the work, and she's supporting me. I got to do what's right.
mm.
I was working. My wife had retired, Mike. She retired from work and was chilling. I got sick. We switched roles. So she started
Wow.
working at the bank and started working. And I became the cook. I'm the pool boy. I do the laundry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious. I'm the mechanic. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
electrician. I mean, to add value in my life to continue on because I've been worked since like 2015. This
Mm-hmm.
actually December 2015 is the last time I worked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and so but you forge on and the best that you can, and you get good at it. And oddly enough, I'm picking up a prescription today, and the girl that I mentioned to her, and she's like, "Oh gosh, look, I see what you went through," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not over. I still have more
Mm.
work to do."
That part. That part.
Yes, I have
That
so much
part.
more to do.
That
And
part.
Mike, this is the big part. I was running around after 2005 and I got sick and I got better and went back to work and everything. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like a dog, like the dog is sniffing out something.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out why did the Lord spare me? Because my brother died from this. My brother was
Mm.
standing in front of a hospital. They took him in there, they couldn't save him because they didn't know what to do. If I was
Wow.
in New Jersey, what's that, Bayshore, right?
Yeah.
Bayshore doesn't have a trauma center. They wouldn't have known what to do either. I moved to North Carolina to where one of the best thoracic surgeons was to
Wow.
save my life.
Look at
And my
God.
wife thinks that I'm crazy. She said, "No, if we were in Jersey, it would have been fine." No, those doctors couldn't handle that.
Look at
Oddly enough,
God,
my
man.
brother-in-law died of a brain aneurysm, my wife's brother, and he went to Bayshore. They couldn't help him, so they airlifted him to Robert Woods. And I wouldn't have survived that because you had to get work done like within like 20 minutes. They wouldn't have got me to Robert Wood Johnson that quickly.
Mm.
So here is where I have to be. And so I was trying to figure out why did he spare me? Why am I still here? And I was trying to
Mhm.
find this one thing, like looking for it in the pocket, looking in a closet. I'm looking for it under a sheet, under the mattress, under the car. Like where's that? What is it that he wants me to do? And I've come to a conclusion. It's not one thing. It's who I
Mm.
am. It's
Talk
everything
about it.
about Eric Short. That's why I'm still here. It's everything about me, even the things that might be bad. Like I'm here for a purpose, and it's Eric. It's not Eric's thinking or Eric's hearing or Eric's
Mhm. Mhm.
walking. It's
Mhm.
everything about Eric. The whole package is the reason why. And
One thing that my bishop and my church says is a lot of time, give God a reason to keep you around. You get what I'm saying? Like if you out there doing His work, He got a reason to keep you here.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
and
I try to wake up every day, and I one of my prayers is for Him to point me in a direction to somebody I can help, man.
yeah,
And
and
he and
and
he, and
and,
he
and
go
believe
ahead.
it or not, the action of that, I can't say if you force it and you're not being legitimate with it, if that
Mhm.
still applies. But I know for me, exactly what you're saying, that I'd let it
Mhm.
happen naturally as well. I don't
100%.
try to, yeah, I
100%.
don't try to
Nah, 100%.
control it because it's not for me to control. He
No,
put me in,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
he puts
100%.
me in a
100%.
position, and it's like driving a car. Sometimes I got to stop at the light, but I have to
Mhm.
follow the rules. The
Mhm.
rules of engagement, of living, and with a purpose is that you have to accept what the purpose is. If you're not
100%.
accepting the information, then it's kind of like it's going to stay. It's going to become stale, and you're never going to use it, and ends up being what they call waste, right?
Mhm.
And we understand waste when it comes to food, but when it comes to waste with a purpose, or waste
Mhm.
of knowledge, that's even worse because it goes away forever,
Mhm.
and you can't get
Hey,
that back. You
you know
know.
what's interesting? I had this same conversation with Book Richardson when I had saw a newspaper article in one of the New York papers, and it was talking about how depressed he was and everything he was going through. You know, he just came out with a documentary,
Mhm.
and I called them, and we was talking, and then I was telling them like, you got to get digging, you got to get the relationship with God to understand that it might be somebody that in New York that He needed you to go get. You get what I'm saying? So and stop feeling like you lost everything, and now he got you over here. You still got to be grateful because he got a job for you to do. And
Yeah.
I always say, can you love God when you really wanted to be a Wall Street tycoon, but he got you at a custodian at a high school because there's some kids at that high school that he needs you to talk to, that he
Yeah.
needs you to lead to him. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Are you still gonna be grateful when you lose that Wall Street job and now you at that high school with that broom? Are
Yeah.
you gonna still give his message, or are you
Yeah.
gonna walk around with the broom with an
Mhm.
attitude, feeling like that your life got taken away? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
or
saying?
your
Because
ego,
that's the
yeah,
test.
because your ego gets in the way of what your expectation is of yourself instead of giving freely to what your real purpose is.
Fact,
And that's the weird thing you're talking about, because I was thinking about this
fact.
earlier, like even down to like when the basketball season was career was over, and I was working, like I said, Abraham and Stocks. I started working on Wall
Mm-hmm.
Street too,
Mm-hmm.
and Mike, this was a really crazy thing, and that's when I knew that who Eric is. Like, I will do whatever I have to do. I'll be a good teammate, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be a
Mm-hmm.
good,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I'm a great husband, a great father, because I give to what the rules are and what has to be done. I started on Wall Street as a messenger. I was
Mm.
walking down the streets of Wall Street, New York City, with bags full of millions and millions
Mm.
of dollars in bonds and in stock,
Mm.
taking it as deliveries from one bank to another. That the firm that I worked for, they were doing transactions, and their
Mm-hmm.
physical securities and bonds were being transacted, and I was making those livings. And people were like, "Oh, Eric Short, how you doing, Eric?" And they were like, they knew who I was. I'm like, I was embarrassed, but the
Mm.
embarrassment went away because it's like I have a goal. And oddly enough, the company that I worked for, which was Bear Stearns, is named the
Mm-hmm.
firm, they started people out doing that so that they once you did that for like about 3 months, then they moved you into the offices. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
initially, my ego was bothering me, and let's say like, cause I'm a messenger. Well, I'm on billboards in train stations and playing college basketball at Darling, Long
Mm-hmm.
Island University, Cinderellas of 1981, and now I'm a messenger. And it's odd because as time went on, I started seeing that in other athletes who they struggled with things,
Mm.
that I saw in Newark, believe it or not. Was it Luther
Mm-hmm.
Wright,
Mm-hmm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
played for Seton Hall. And I'm seeing him walking the streets like a zombie. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, but I fought, I wasn't in that mode, but I'm just saying, as being an athlete and being somebody that people revere, you're signing autographs and doing things of that nature, and then to be humbled and it's like I'm back in the real world. I'm working in McDonald's. You know, my ego never questioned, because it's like I'm doing what I have to, what has to be done. I have to pay the price. I have to put in the work. I ran a Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant before. After we got married, I lost my job on Wall
Mm-hmm.
Street. I started running the biggest Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant in New York, for a
Mm.
period of time,
Mm.
and oddly enough, a basketball guy hired me, a guy that played at
Wow.
Syracuse. He was like an area manager, and he saw my name. He's like, "Yeah, I'll get you a job." Blah blah blah. But it sustained me to strive back into the banking industry. And you have to see those things. But if you're in
100%.
the way, yeah, if you're in the way of your own progress or your own, purpose, then you're sabotaging yourself, your own career. You know,
Now
and
let's talk
all
about what you got going on now. I saw you do the podcast. How did that come in effect, and what made you want to get into that, and like where you trying to take it?
yeah, well, that's a funny story. It's a funny story. I participated in well, actually, I was in the hospital
Mm-hmm.
2016,
Mm-hmm.
and a gentleman that played music on Facebook um, came to me and said, "Hey, Eric, you should write a book and tell your story." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I didn't want to do that, because if I do, I got to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of nervous about doing that, throwing people under the bus and just telling the truth, right? Because I got to tell the
Mm-hmm.
truth. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, "Nah, I'm not going to do it." I consulted with some people, and they were like, maybe it's not time. But he's mentioned to me, he said, "Well, just write stuff down, and when you're ready to do it, you'll have a bunch of information that you can make a
Mm-hmm.
decision.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make a rash decision now." So I get out of the hospital, years pass by, and after the 2019 episode, he comes back to me. It's like, "Hey, Eric, I'm getting ready to do a documentary about
Mm.
basketball in Brooklyn during the era of 1975 to 1985." And so I was like, he's looking for support from people. And this guy used to play music on Facebook while I was in the hospital. I used to listen to music, and people be on there talking, blah blah blah. So I thought about it, and I was like, I came back to him like a day later, and I was like, not only will I support what you're doing, I said, but I can help because I know where all the bodies are buried. I played in that
Mm.
era, and plus I can't let you lie. Like you're doing an
Mm.
era, you're working on the era that I played in, and I know all those guys, and I can't let you lie. So you got to tell the truth. And that's because I do, I have these articles that I pull up from a database,
I
right?
see. I be seeing you joint. Yeah, I be
Yeah.
saying it. I be saying
And
it.
so that was helpful in doing the research of the information about the documentary. And so got involved in it, started doing that during the pandemic. And we started doing a podcast with that as well. Long
Mm.
story short, the documentary was supposed to be 4 parts. I think the first part was supposed to be about the coaches that were in the community. Second part was about the high schools and the players. Third part was about the players who didn't play in high school, but the tournaments, all the, soul
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
holes and all of that.
Yeah.
And then the fourth part was supposed to be in basketball and beyond, which would cover guys leaving and becoming college coaches, or me running camps in North Carolina, or whoever was doing anything similar to that. So we could highlight, people progression from, those days.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that the gentleman was not savory, and he decided
Mm.
not to compensate me for the work.
Oh
And he used
man.
a lot of things that were not true with regard to how somebody who works on a film gets paid. Like the
Mm.
carpenters that build the set, they get paid. They don't wait for money to see if the movie makes or not. Like Steven Spielberg's got to pay all of those people whether the movie makes money or not, because
Yeah.
they're all
Facts.
coming in to
Facts.
do the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Even the chauffeurs, the guy that chauffeurs the stars around. Well, you're not going to pay him if the movie don't make money. That's like, I'm not taking the guy then. Find
Yeah.
somebody
Facts.
else, get an Uber or something. But he didn't
Facts.
pay me with that distinction. A lot of other things transpired, and that actually it blew over. I
Mm.
think it was 2023, St. Patrick's
Mm.
Day.
Yeah. I
My
remember
at
seeing it. I
Yeah,
remember seeing some. Yeah.
the anniversary of my first illness, we got
Mm-hmm.
into it about that conversation with some
Mm-hmm.
other things, and I said, like, you haven't even paid me, yet, and you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about doing all these things. And so he hung up the phone, and we went in. The next day, I started the Brooklyn basketball history page on Facebook.
Mm. I know.
The
I be seeing
actual
you. You be having a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, the actual next day, I took
Mm-hmm.
all of the information that I had provided for the documentary to be done. I took it all and put it in, my page, and it's blown up. Like, I think we're
Mm-hmm.
close to like
Mm-hmm.
7,000 members now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fairly decent number, I would assume. I'm not really sure, but I'm not doing it for the accolades. I'm doing it to provide a connection to people who played this game in that environment of New York,
Mm-hmm.
for the history of New York from since
Mm-hmm.
1910 until now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that being said, also, we had done some podcasts with that gentleman. And so when I walked away, I went to my best friend, who's Les Miller. We grew up playing together, and we've been friends since we were born. And I said, "Hey, let's do the podcast ourselves." So
Mm.
we went on that's a fact finding, like trying to figure out how to do it, what to do, and we just started touching bases with people as a very casual way of introducing people that participated in New York, of whatever age group. And
Mhm.
we've interviewed guys like Marvin Roberts, who played in the NBA for like 9 years, 10 years, like around the Connie Hawkins era.
Mhm.
Introduced, or interviewed guys that were legends and really good college players at Michigan State or wherever Louisiana State, and just touching base with them and sharing their experience, their journey of this game,
Mhm.
And also, like some of them like are friends of mine. So it's like a catch up as well, and getting the community of basketball to get to know who these guys were when we were spry and young and doing our thing. And it's just kind of slowed because we don't put any pressure to forcibly do the shows.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah.
casual in nature is how we do it. But but the big thing is not so much that and the podcast, because that's just a connection for the Facebook page. But the whole idea is to share the memories for people,
That's
because that's
dope.
what we really have to hold on to when we're at this
Facts,
age,
facts, facts,
and
facts.
and the value of that is, a guy coming back to me and saying, hey, Eric, thanks, man, I appreciate it, because now my grandson really believed I could play, you know.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I pull out articles, like even guys that were pros, like perfect example, like Rolando Blackman.
Mm.
I found an article, a Japanese guy interviewed him, like from the Pan Am Games, and he came back to me. He's like, Eric, man, where'd you find that? He's like, he's like, I remember that interview, and he's like, I guess he couldn't understand the guy well, so it brought
Mm.
back his memory to that experience, and
That's
um,
dope, man. That's dope.
yeah, and
What?
and I found that to be important, Mike,
Mhm.
because when I was sick, I right away gravitated towards my memory of
Mm.
what my experiences was. I wrote a poem when I got sick. I didn't think I was going to make it out of the hospital because I knew what happened. And it's like
Mhm.
I got what happened to my dad. Is I'm not going to make it, And I wrote a poem, man, and about the experience. And from that poem, I came up and said to myself, like my memory of everything is I just you're recanting your life. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like have a come to,
Mhm.
like what they say, come to Jesus moment where you're
Mhm.
reflecting. And when you
Mhm.
start reflecting, even when you're healthy and you're 60 years old, you reflect.
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
somebody comes back to you, Mike, and says, hey, Mike, look at these articles of you when you were playing, look at these pictures of you. And then, your wife sees it. And then before you know it, your neighbors see it or your grandkids. And people are like, they're real happy. I'm bringing joy to people's lives just in that
That's dope,
little
man.
environment.
Facts.
And the
Facts.
value, Mike, is not in my posts, because I track the information.
Mhm.
I'm like assumingly a Wall Street analyst, so I pay attention to numbers, and I look at the statistics, and it's not about the post, it's about the content of people's
Yeah,
comments.
comments, facts,
You
facts.
get like you get 150 comments about I don't know, just using Chris Mullen for example. Oh, I lived across the street from him. He was a great guy. Oh, I was in fifth grade with him.
That's
Oh, I
dope.
mean, so
That's dope.
people are sharing their experiences of this person, of who they were to them, you know.
Yeah, that's
And then
dope.
I do the flowers thing for everyone. And I don't know if you saw that, but it's kind of like I took a court, put yellow in the middle of the court, half court, the circle,
Mhm.
and I put a person's name in there, and that's giving them their flowers. So,
Wow.
and I kind of like slowed down on it, but I was giving out like everybody I could think of, any name that came up, guys that were playing in 1940, I was giving them
Mm.
flowers. I would put their name in there, but people will come back. It's like, you know what, my this woman, very weird Jewish woman, comes to me. She's like, hey, my husband used to play in the yeshiva back in the day in the 30s, and he was really good. She sent me articles and pictures, and so I'm like, yeah, well, how old is he? She's like, I don't know. And it's like,
Mm.
and she's like, I don't. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? Like we're typing back and forth. He's like, what do you mean you don't know? It's like he was 40 years older than me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, but he had passed like 30 years ago, but she ran into the page and she said, hey, this is the best place to put the information about her husband. Now I could
Wow.
have sat back and been an idiot and said, well, it's a Jewish person. I'm not putting that in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But it's history. It's not
Facts.
for me to decide. So I
Facts.
posted the pictures and put out there. Now we talk periodically all the time. She's like,
That's
"Hi, Eric,
dope,
thanks for
man.
posting my pictures. Hey, do you think you could find some more articles for me? Blah 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 blah. And that's the value of it, like providing that information to people. And you're doing something good or okay when people come back to you from somewhere else and they say, "Hey, I
Facts,
heard what you're doing," you know,
facts, facts, facts.
and that even happened at the camp, Mike. I'm like running the camp, and this was 2015, the year before I got sick, and was doing the camp, and these two guys show up, and they're from Texas, right? And they're like talking with my partners, and they're like, John Lucas sent us here. And I'm like, John
Mm.
Lucas, like, he said, yeah,
Yeah,
we heard what y'all are doing. I'm like, well,
yeah.
John Lucas are here from
He
Texas.
wanted that. Yeah, he wanted to see. Yeah, he wanted
Yeah,
to see the competition. He wanted to see the
yeah.
competition.
And they were
Yeah,
seeing
they
what we're
came to my
doing.
stuff.
I'm
Yeah, they
serious.
came to my stuff.
Yeah.
Brian Merritt and them. Brian Merritt and
Yeah.
somebody else. Yeah, they came to my stuff. I know why they sent them. He
That's
wanted to see what
funny.
you had going
Yeah.
on.
It's funny to me
He wanted
because
to
it's
see how
like,
what you had going on.
yeah, and it's like, but that's when you find out that what you do in any space, if it's done in a
Facts,
public
facts,
manner, it can travel
facts.
far and wide.
100%, 100%.
Yeah,
I went through that with doing basketball spotlight and how it blew up. It just went like something that it was just a thought, and then it just turned into wildfire and just went crazy.
yeah.
So in so, in closing, what do you have going on coming up? What can we like? Where you what space are you in, and what are you trying to do? Like, what's the next chapter?
I mean, the first chapter is for me to try to stay healthy, and that's really
Mm,
important for me to maintain that, and that's very important. I mean, because I
mhm,
know that at any moment something could happen, and I know
mhm,
how to respond to it, but I don't know if my body can respond to it. But to answer your question, trying to grow this page because I also created the Queens basketball history page
mhm,
as well. And I'm kind of taking that one a little slower because I've learned some things that maybe I shouldn't have done with Brooklyn page. So we're taking our time with it.
mhm,
But it's a special, situation because now it's growing to the point where other boroughs could possibly benefit with this because now like pages like this are popping up all over the country. Detroit has a
100%.
page, Chicago,
That's
Philly.
dope, bro.
Yeah, everybody's doing
So where do
historical
you get
stuff.
the information from?
Basically, it's newspapers.com. I mean, it's not a secret anymore
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. Somebody told me
people are
about that.
grabbing that, but it costs money to maintain that database, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like grabbing that stuff and sharing the information and it's the one thing that I know that people in other states don't do. They're not using that. And that's what
Mm,
differentiates us and some other groups here in New York, I'm up in New York that use that stuff that aren't in that, they're not in that same, space right now. But going forward to try to grow the process and sharing information
I'm
and
gonna
to
be
all
sharing it like crazy now. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
but I
now
also want
we
to try to do some special things to get parents and people to understand what their kids are getting involved in this sport and how the game has
mhm,
changed so much, you know.
mhm,
And that's what my big concern is now is how players are interacting in this space of basketball. Are they doing it properly? Is it
mhm,
and plus the nature of the beast of how the game has changed,
mhm.
the payment of trainers and
Yeah.
we didn't pay for that stuff then,
Mm,
having like the entertainment side of the of our society is infiltrated into basketball now, you
100%.
know. Yeah, and
100%.
then the nerds are involved because now the stats become more important than normal strategy of running plays. You run down the court, you stand still because you're a 3-point shooter.
Mm.
It's a softer game because you can't touch anybody anymore until the players come and then they let you kill each other before they blow the whistle. Um, but then you also have the complaint side of
Yeah,
athletes complaining like there's something wrong, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm monitoring that just from my space just to see what impact can I have on the community of athletes to get them to change how they're doing things to maybe be better, not necessarily better pros, but better athletes in their space, whether they become pros or not. They're stewards of the game. The next
Mm.
group of people, and then there's the next group and the next group, and um, that you figure under normal circumstances is the game in good hands,
Facts,
and
facts.
everyone always defaults to saying, "Yeah, the game's in good hands," But now
Mhm.
you have like ex players that are complaining. The guy, I
Yeah,
can't watch it anymore.
yeah.
You
I
know,
said that. I said that like 6 years ago.
yeah, we were
Um,
in that because we're in that space, so we knew before a lot of other people knew, Mike.
yeah. What last question. I always let people do this at the end. Give a shout out to all the people that were with you and held you down from your journey from pain to your purpose, man.
I mean, there's three people that come to mind like right away, and that would be my wife, Cassandra, Amanda, and my
Mhm.
best friend Les Miller, because they
Mhm.
held me up,
Mhm.
truly, um, and made life a lot easier for me in that sense, and just the family overall. But the basketball community came out like woodwork. It was just
Mhm.
unbelievable, Mike. And
Mhm.
I want everybody, everybody in Brooklyn knows, or New York in general, they all know the love that I have for them and what
Mhm.
it means to me. I'm
Mhm.
still here, and anytime that I had times where things were down and I'm like, struggling, I there was always somewhere to lean on, and I mean
Mhm.
everywhere. For me, the circle of people that came out and were available, it was just incredible. It made the transition and the rehab and adjusting so much easier, and even the healthcare workers. That's
Mhm.
another thing. I mean, people don't value them and look at them and want give them a hard time or whatever. But without the nurses and ICU and in the regular wards that were there for me, even the lady mopping the floor, the people bringing that horrible lunches and breakfast, I mean, but they were there and their ears were
Uh-huh.
open and they listened and they showed concern and they saw me trying to work hard, and the therapists, that were there that I talk to all the time. I go back to the hospitals. I go
Mhm.
back to this hospital every March on St. Patrick's Day, August 24th, and October 15th. I go back to those places and I make my rounds and I thank them. We cry, we
Yeah,
laugh
so
together.
yeah.
They see my progress, but it's like to show an appreciation for the things that they did. People were wiping my ass, Mike.
Mm.
You kidding me? Bathing me,
Mm.
changing I they couldn't find my veins. So the whole doggone hospital was just sending out specialty teams to find my veins.
Mm.
I mean, everybody that was
Mhm.
there, the hand and foot doctors, the people at the reception areas, the cafeteria people in the hospital, at Northeast Hospital here in Charlotte area. They were there to help anyone who's in their care to walk out of that hospital. And then
Mm.
even in the rehab facility, that one of the things they do, they interview you to say, "What's your goal?" Like before you come into this rehab, say, "What's your goal?" And it's like I'm sounding like Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz. I was like, "I want to go home." I said, "My
Uh-huh.
goal is to go home," and they sent me home. Just how
That's
was
dope, man.
just how Dorothy said it. I kept saying I want to go home, and they got me to the point where I could go home. And
Mm.
it's like you take it for granted, man. But I could not have done this by myself at all because there was some dark times. I'm telling
I
you,
know. I've been there.
oh
I've been
man,
there. Yeah.
and it's not just the dark times for me. I'm in ICU for I was in the hospital for 3 months, Mike, and
Mm.
every other night, cold blue. Hey, what happened to Joe? He didn't make it. That cold blue was him last night. I'm there seeing and like people not and I'm walking in the hallways trying to learn how to walk again, and I see they're cleaning his room out and getting all his personal stuff out of it. He's gone, and
Wow.
it's like, oh man, like like is this my path? Like is this like a hospice environment? But quite honestly, rehab is the exact opposite. It's to get you square away so you can get out of there
Mhm.
so I'm appreciative to them. I'm thankful and grateful for them. That my neighbors and the basketball, like I said, the basketball community, even the banking industry and people that I know, everybody was respectfully concerned about my well-being and me getting well. And that I would be eternally grateful to so many people. I would be a fool not to respect that from them. you know.
All right, brother. So man, thanks for coming on, bro. This was a joy, man. It's a long time coming. I'm gonna have some clips from this that I'll be posting all the time. You probably gonna get tired of me posting them because I got an app that I send it to that give me the clips from this. So it's gonna be a lot of clips going up from this, man. I want to thank you for coming on and thanks for being a part of my life, man. Those Wildcat days and all that stuff, man. I'm proud of what you're doing down there. And I'm proud that you're still going and living in your purpose, man. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike, and I just want to let you know, man, I really appreciate you for what you stand for, and what the tragedies that you went through, man. I just want to let you know, man, I was always thinking about you, man, and we never were that far away that we couldn't like reach out and talk to each other. So I'm just glad that you knew you're recovering and doing well, and you're looking forward to like future chapters for your life, man, and you just stay strong, man, and just continue doing what you do.
All right, brother, man. Take care, man. I
All right, you
appreciate
too,
it,
man.
man.
And we'll
All
talk
right.
soon.
All
Okay.
right, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, that was my brother Eric Short, man, and great story, great everything, man. Good brother right there, man. It's not that many good dudes in the basketball world when you break it down by the amount of people that's in it and who is actually good, but he's one of them. So this Mike, stay tuned next week. We got another guest on From Pain to Purpose podcast. Enjoy the rest of your night. Shalom.